Can we start again, please? It is at least the first part today will be very much about kind of recapitulation and moving towards money and finance. We talked about last time about aggregate demand. And here you see the importance of a differentiated approach in economics, that we have different schools, that we have different understandings of what economics is about, meaning how the economic process actually functions. The entire concept, and we will come to this again and again, the entire concept of the market as core of the economic process is not completely clear. Meaning there are different approaches to it. Some people say that the market is the only relevant mechanism of steering the overall economic process in all details. And looking at this slide, you see I say the overall prices and the overall economic activities. It is not about individuals, individual firms, individual buyers, but it is the overall process. So this is something you have to keep in mind. And you have to keep in mind that some people say it is actually about the demand side. That is the decisive thing. And the other side says it is actually the supply side. Whatever we supply, whatever we produce, is decisive when it comes to the development, the movement, the process of the market. And literally, it is something, if you go to a market, it is not just standing there, but the relevance of the market is that there are people interacting. So market is a process. And a process has, in one way or another, always a beginning and an end. It is about economic activities, and it is something that tells us in very general terms the aggregate demand and the aggregate supply, tells us in very general terms about the price level for goods, for commodities, about unemployment, and about real GDP. In very general terms, I say, because this is the framework within which economics considers that then the detailed processes move on. There is always the challenge, the difficulty, if you want, that we say in economics we are dealing with economic activities, but we equal economic activities usually with wealth, with affluence. If we see people economically active, we say this is an expression of wealth. So what we usually have is this equation between wealth and growth. And of course this has different shapes implied. The one trap is that the increasing price level would suggest at first sight that we have more activities. Because the figures, as simple as that, the figure goes up. So seemingly, there is more activity taking place. But the question then is this really a change of economic activity, or is it a change of a label put on things? There we have to be very careful. And there we actually do not have one answer or another, but there we have to look at the overall process. The change of price, we come later back to this, the change of price has different dimensions to it. The one dimension is, of course, scarcity and individual valuation. This is the standard argument of economics. If people appreciate something, they pay more for it. It may be simply appreciation in terms of liking something, of wanting something, or it may be appreciation in terms of needs. If you really need something, then you will pay more for it. It is a matter of elasticity and all these things, and it is a matter of what counts in terms of life. What do you need? But it is an easy distraction on the individual level. Because, of course, on the general level, we have different perspective to it. We say what actually happens is that the production of goods and services is changing. It is not that more of us like certain things or need certain things. But it is the other side that things are produced in a certain way, and this way of production influences the price. Rationalization is the most typical, most obvious example that if I have a highly productive machine, I can produce more goods in the same time. The only problem, and it is a problem, is that, of course, if this machine is extremely expensive, then it is the question, what changes? Only the amount of products, or, and in which way then, as well, the value of products. So we have here the substitution effect, or possible substitution effect, of different goods, namely goods as machines and raw materials, and the commodity of labor power. Labor power, as we saw last time, is a commodity. If you will be applying for a job, I'm terribly sorry to say it, as harsh as it is, you are not seen as individual, as person, or as personality, but you are seen as commodity. Some people buy your labor power, your ability to work, They are not interested in you personally. They buy this ability to work, the labor power, and they want to return to her on this. So this is a decisive thing that we have to differentiate these perspectives. What does the market actually do, and what is the relevance in terms of the value and output of production? Here it is as well the question of what is especially relevant. Is it the relevance of demand or the relevance of supply? Now we come briefly back to these effects on the aggregate demand, interest rate effect, wealth effect, and net export effect. And I come back to it especially because of the wealth effect, because what actually happens here is that we are dealing with the perception of wealth. If we feel richer in a society, and again, it's not only the individual, but as society, we are ready to buy more. This is another way of saying what I said last time. As higher as the price is, as better we feel, even if we have to pay more. And this is this always, we are not always, but very often dealing with paradoxes, that of course the individual interest is I want to pay as little as possible. But at the same time, if I have this feeling I'm part of an affluent society, if I'm part of, or that I'm part of an affluent group, and I can afford to pay a higher price, I will do it. We do this for special products. We buy the more expensive product because it's fancy, because it has a good reputation or whatsoever. Or we do it in general. It is interesting actually to look at the budgets of households, what people spend for different things. We find this shift there that in one society, the richer people, we talked about it earlier in the first semester, I think, that the richer people pay more for goods that they would not be able and not be willing to buy if they would not have so much money. Now this is something that has different dimensions and that plays a role in the overall process, in the overall economic process. But still we have the major question of what and how do we compare things? We need some criteria to compare different things, or the same thing. Of course, we can easily compare the same thing. We can compare 100 yuan with 100 yuan. We can compare one, I can't read it the make, the brand, one watch of this make, of this kind, with the same. But we have already difficulties if it's not the identical watch, if it's another watch. And of course we have even more problems to compare a watch with a computer mouse. What are the criteria? Now the one and very much standard argument is we are dealing with a valuation, with a personal valuation. We talked about utility functions. This is what people value most, and this is why they buy something and pay more money than for other things. Now the problem there is, of course, that it is difficult to value in a comparative perspective a watch, a computer mouse, a bed. What is more valuable? We can say more or less easy to do without the watch. But if we need a computer for work, we need a bed to sleep, what is more valuable? A chair and a bed. Okay, we can sit on the bed, but is it really easy to compare these things? In many cases, it seems to be at least easily possible. But it is not just this personal valuation, but there is something of context as well. We need a context which is always relative and subjective. So this would mean economics doesn't have any criteria than just subjective valuation when it comes to prices. The one says, oh, I want to have this bed. I pay 3,000 euro, 8,000 euro. And the other say, I can sleep in the corner, I just need a mattress. That's enough. I say this, I came across the other day something kind of funny, I don't know. This is the difference between funny and ridiculous. There is a job, it's called a job, you get huge amount of money for it, to test beds. So for sleeping in luxurious beds, actually for 8,000 euro plus, you get paid per hour. Sleep in this bed for 8 hours, and then say it's a good bed, it's not a good bed, it's a very good bed, and then you get 250 euro per hour. 8,000 euro per bed. Of course, you have to pay from this money for 250, the bed tester has to go into the price of the bed. It's just amazing how economics really works when it comes to certain things. There is this subjective evaluation, but at the same time, we should look for another criteria. If we say valuation, and we have as a common denominator the price, what makes the price of something? How do we define the price? We come back to the circularity and say the price is actually what people are ready to pay for it. And because they are ready to pay a high price, because they really like it, it has a high value. So each of these units, and we are talking about different products, different commodities, is the same as any other so far as it has the character of the average labor power of society and takes effect as such. This is the point. The average labor power used to produce a good. And we talked about it in terms of aggregation. It's the time you need to produce something, but not you as individual, but to what did we have? To the bed. People need, with a standard qualification, in average, to produce the bed. Be it the bed or part of it. This is an average. If you are very fast, you are very slow, this doesn't matter. The average matters. And then we come, indeed, to the market, where the market says, this is what I accept as energy put into the production of the bed, the chair, or the bowl of rice. Meaning we have these two mechanisms going hand in hand, and this is important to keep in mind. They play both a role, but we have this objective standard underlying the process on the market. It is not about simply a completely subjective measure where we say, I like this thing, I pay much money for it. These are the exceptions. You will find them actually in auctions where people pay a huge amount of money for some collectibilities, for stamps, for paintings, for old cars. But we are talking about the ordinary goods. We talked briefly about it, so we have to make clear these different dimensions. The GDP is the very general reference point for economic activities. It doesn't have anything to do with wealth or affluence or whatsoever. It has only something to do with the economic activities, meaning what is produced. What goes into it as final product, as inventories, is a definitional question. Don't worry too much if you have doubts there. Everybody has some doubts. Is this really a final product? Is this, where does it stop? Productive factors, land, in the widest sense, raw materials, labor, which is actually the labor power when it comes to economics proper, and machines. Land and machines as constant capital, and labor as variable capital. Constant and variable capitals are related to each other. And this relationship has a different meaning. It has the different meaning. We are talking on the one hand about productivity. If we increase or if we invest in good machines, meaning good machines, the productivity is increasing. The machine can do something usually faster, better than we can do. Try to lift something heavy, get a crane to lift it. The crane is able to lift something where you don't even have a chance to get it slightly off the ground.
So, what does the V stand for?
The V is the variable capital, the living labor. This is what we do with our hands work, the energy we spend with the muscles, with the brain, with the nerves, what we do, the actual work. The living labor, the activity of work. So we have, in terms of productivity, this relation between C and V, composition of capital, and we have it in a different way of profitability. And there we have this other paradox, that actually increasing productivity usually means a decreasing profitability. We sell more commodities. What was it? Beds, chairs, and bowl of rice. We produce more products, but at the same time, the value of each individual product is decreasing. The value is decreasing. The output is increasing. We produce more goods, but the value is per individual product is decreasing. So we produce first one share in 1 hour for 1 unit. Now we produce 2 shares in 1 hour, and still the value is 1 unit? No, exactly, it's half, so the value is decreasing.
How to define the value?
We define the value, this is what I said before, not in terms of the subjective preference, but we define it by the energy, by the labor going into its production. It's not this simple subjective assessment of something, but we have this point of reference to how much labor is needed to produce this good. And then, of course, we have, on the second level, we have this, it's not just how much labor is needed, but how much is actually socially accepted. The market is not interested in what you want and what you need, but the market is interested in what you can pay for. Next paradox. It is easy to buy an aircraft, luxurious car, I don't know, these huge television screens, if you have the money. These things are produced. But if you come to certain areas and look for a certain medicine, people need, and especially people with a low income need, you will have difficulties to find them. So it is not about necessities, but it is about what is recognized in terms of the purchasing power. Is there enough purchasing power? And in a way you can come back then to the idea of demand and supply. If there are people enough to buy luxurious goods, motor yachts, sailing yachts, or whatsoever, fine, we produce it. This is our interest, not the interest of supplying goods that everybody has a decent life. Again, to your question, or continuing from your question, how do we define the value? We have the concrete labor as a matter of producing something. It is spending the energy, spending the intellectual effort in producing something. This is the concrete labor. Whatever a worker, be it a manual worker, be it a craftsman, be it an office clerk, be it an intellectual, does. This is concrete labor. I'm standing here now, I'm lecturing, this is concrete labor. No economist is interested in me standing here and giving the lecture. Of course, everybody is interested, every economist is interested, because I teach economics. So in this way, yes. But nobody is interested in this. Interest is the abstract labor. Meaning, how much energy do I put into it? It's not the personal energy. You may have very engaged lecturers. You may have people who teach for 40 years the same thing. They have the same slides. They change the dates possibly. And they just repeat over 40 years. And if you come after class, ask a question. No, that was in the lecture. Check it. And you may have somebody who says, well, come to me, we'll talk about it, we'll try to explain it, whatsoever. This is not of interest. What is of interest is the average labor, the average energy put into it. As an aggregate, because it is relevant as well, the intellectual ability, the energy you need for it, the physical energy you need for certain jobs. All this plays a role. In this way, it is as well relevant what instruments do you have. Do you have instruments that make it easier, that make it even possible to perform the way you do? Abstract labor already says we are talking about an abstraction. It's not only aggregation, but it is an abstraction. Whatever you do in concrete terms with your hands is not of interest. Abstract labor, measured, or the reference point, is time. Aggregation, as well a kind of abstraction when it comes to economic activities, is the overall outcome as aggregation. Whatever is at the end, usually we take the year, there as a result of these economic activities. It doesn't matter whatever quality there is It can be producing rubbish. Fine. I showed you the different perspectives on it. In economic terms, it is okay as long as we produce value. Meaning value not as something that we have to value, but in terms of something that is relevant on the market. Now we come to this beautiful thing of money, because we usually, without having any other idea, we usually refer to money as an abstraction to measure the value of things. This is the price tag. You go to the shop, whatever shop it is, you see a price tag on the thing, and then you say, okay, this is valuable, this is very valuable, this is not valuable. Our limited human brain equals value with quality, value expressed in the price of something. And the price is expressed in terms of money. It's a simplification of it. It is an abstraction. But we take the money, and money itself is a commodity. You can buy money and you can sell money. Everybody knows if you ever travel into another country, latest then, you have to buy another currency, which means you sell your own currency. We talked about money, the Fiat Justitia Ruat Caelum, this authority of fiat money, that we have to know the value of money. And the value of money as such doesn't exist. It only exists in different ways, and the one or the two ways, the two standard ways, immediately coming to mind is on the one hand, in terms of fiat money, that the government, this Fiat Justitia Ruat Caelum, doesn't mean anything else. The government guarantees the value of money. It says if there is 100 on this piece of paper written, it is, and if it says yuan, it is the value of 100 yuan. If you write it, useless. If I write it, useless. If the government writes it, perfect. It guarantees that it is this value. The other guarantee, it sometimes existed in history, is the gold standard, meaning you have a material value standing behind the money. It's technically actually a relatively simple process. You have such and such amount of gold. It's stored somewhere, and you are only providing money that can be exchanged against this gold. So literally you go to the treasury of the central bank, and they say, okay, we have this and that amount of gold, and this is the only amount of money we provide. It seems that we come to an end without the warning here, but at least reminding you of the 4 decisive moments we talked about. Durability. If you have money, you can store it. If you have bread, if you have rice, it will be rotten after some time. With money, it doesn't happen. It's portable. You can easily put it into your pocket if you don't have too much. It is divisible, meaning can make from your 100 yuan 50 yuan or 20 yuan, 5 times 20 yuan, that you have the same. In this way it's divisible. And it is interchangeable, fiat, meaning everybody accepts this. This is a very important point. Everybody accepts this is 100 yuan, this is this and that amount of money, and it is guaranteed that I get it replaced. So I think we come to an end now. Exactly. Have a look at it and think about it.
That this answer is correct.